Now I'd like to invite Zahid Zarin, the chairman of Watford Muslim Youth Centre, to say a few words about the charity itself. Thank you.
Everybody's hungry out there. Firstly, welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us at Watford Football Club today, and also the Watford Muslim Youth Centre. Thank you for all your support over the years, and certainly today within Ramadan. I hope we all attain the blessings of this blessed month. I'd like to thank especially to Watford Football Club for bringing on this Ramadan event, especially to Dave and Kara for all the hard work they do across the community. The work they've been doing for diversity, particularly in working with the Muslim community today. They delivered quite a few events over the year, which we've been working with them, and I can see a lot of passion in what they're doing, and that inspires me to sort of continue the work we've been doing as well. I hope that this work we're doing today inspires the youth, and it allows to bring football to our families and within our community. Watford itself strives to be a family-orientated club, those of you that have been here. And I think what I've experienced, and Imran recently, when I managed to get him to go to a match at last, was that family spirit. And I hope that we can continue to build on that. Through Watford Muslim Youth Centre particularly, looking forward to building more Muslim presence as well. There's been a lot of stigma over the years with football and attending football, but I think Watford is a great place for us to start. We've done quite a few activities, as I mentioned, so far. We recently welcomed Blackburn Rovers, and they brought 30 young people with them to watch the match, but also to have an experience that those youngsters would not forget. They set out that day to visit us in Watford, but actually they stopped along the way at Cambridge Mosque, and they prayed there. I believe it's the first eco mosque in the UK. And those children, they got opportunity to pray along the way to watching football that day. And after the match, they came together with Watford community. We were able to provide a place for them to pray, a place for them to listen to the glorious Quran, and really come together with, on the day they were opponents to us, but actually we came together as a community. And again, that's thanks to Dave, to Karen, all the work they put in to deliver that, and to Watford Football Club. And I hope and pray that that experience actually helps to raise the self-esteem of those youngsters and inspires them to great things in their lives. Watford Football Club continues to support fathers and sons attending football matches. And that's something that we've been doing over the last few years. And with their assistance, we've managed to create moments where parent and child are able to spend time together, attend matches, pray in the interfaith room which Watford have provided, and even enjoy the halal food that's served at the club. So Watford Muslim Youth Centre Trust aims to build on this and bring mothers and their child to matches. And we look forward to building on the ongoing family spirit at the club. I think the football itself can be a force for positive family time, as experienced by Imran recently. We've collaborated well so far and hope to continue the excellent work that we've achieved. And I hope our joint efforts continue, as I mentioned there, to dispel the sort of stigma in football, but working together to break barriers and fighting the sort of Islamophobia that we experience in our lives. And sometimes it comes off the football pitch. I'm hoping that also through the Watford Muslim Youth Centre Trust, that we'll be able to open up avenues for our youth, and especially for our sisters as well, to play and attend football matches. And we're working quite closely with Karen to provide access to the women's football matches as well. And the vision for the future, activities for the youth, improving the Muslim attendance to the football events. And as I mentioned, I think football is a powerful force. It does have the potential to bring the communities together. And I look forward to the coming year where we can finally see the completion of the centre. I'm praying in a year's time that we're able to hold an iftar and invite all of you actually in the land. That reality is coming closer. We've had the work starting on the land again. I know there's been various rumours around the community. I think people get frustrated Essentially, we've all been impacted by COVID. We've had a slowdown because of COVID in terms of fundraising, in terms of construction. But things are looking bright and picking up again. As I said, the work started up again. We've actually got a healthy reserve of funds raised so far. If you look at the slides, you can see there's a thermometer up there. It's probably stopped now because of the PowerPoint, but we'll come back on again with the slides. And we've done actually really good work with all your support and with all the other sources within the community to raise well over £1 million now. Looking back, when we first embarked upon this project, I didn't know where I'd be able to raise £2,000. So to be sitting on the other side of approximately £1.2 million raised thus far, I think that's an amazing achievement. It's not something we've done, it's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has enabled us to achieve through that determination, through that support, and through a lot of prayers that have been granted to us and blessings. So we'll cut it short there, because I could continue for another 10 minutes. Thank you all very much for attending today. I look forward to continuing to speak to all of you later on, inshallah. Enjoy the food when we get today, because I can get something.
Thank you very much, Zahid, for that update. And to continue in that vein, I'll say a few more words about the centre before we hear the reflections from the football club itself. So the centre approach has been, it's been a long history, and in the past, just to remind you some of the events we have done, they are really varied, quite wide in terms of to do with sisters, to men, women, children, young people, old people, interfaith, different community groups. And even in this room around you today, we have people from different countries and ethnicities within the Islamic faith and outside. So it's a symbol of our outreach work and what we hope to attain as part of the education with the centre. We obviously have our lovely dignitaries at the front and we have the police who are here to arrest anybody who gives me a dirty look. So his name's Phil, just watch out. And if you just carry on with the slides, we've had some examples of different things. 786 Club was quite a famous and very active youth group that we set up, which helped a lot of young people go into hospitals and nursing homes and parks and gave them experiences that they may not have otherwise gained. Unfortunately, COVID, we all took a beating and everything stopped. But we are hoping this summer to reinitiate that. But we did go online with our 786 Club. We've done lots of sports, and Brother Dawud here at the front to my left, he loves this sort of stuff. I just support him from a distance. But you know, they've been kayaking, running marathons and climbing mountains and gosh knows what. And they all do it in good spirit and to raise money for the centre. We also have had plenty of other sports as well. And other kind of events we've had are, because you can see slides on the screens hopefully, we do a lot of community events as well, bazaars and Eid events and sort of parent and children events so that they can develop their relationships better. We also have, most importantly, in terms of Watford Football Club, it's been over several years we've collaborated. And there was a time when Ashraf Lazar used to play for this club. He donated a lot of his Qurbani meat to the local masjid in collaboration with us. And we helped him distribute meat to people, which I thought was a very fantastic effort on behalf of the club as well. We have also had an iftar this time, well, similar time last year at the football club. And it was in a different room, it was a smaller room. So it wasn't this view. So, you know, it's a very fantastic view that we have here. So thank you for that. I mean, you know, the collaboration with Dave and Karen it's been enjoyable. And it's always fun when we get on those team calls and we plan what we're going to do for the community. So that's fantastic. But in terms of the centre itself, just to remind you what's going to be in the building, it's going to be 2 floors, and on the ground floor you can see some floor maps. You may not fully be able to tell from the screens, but on the left-hand side you can see, as you enter the front, which is the bottom of the screen, you'll find a cafe, so eating and drinking, people chilling, so to speak. And as you go through at the back, there's a large banqueting hall, which will be multi-purpose to serve different events for different needs. It could be religious, it could be social, it could be exercise, it could be conferences. So the whole thing is multi-purpose and inviting to the community. Upstairs, you have in the same footprint at the front a creche, which is a nursery. Both the cafe and the nursery have been subleased commercially to operators who will pay us rent to help us maintain our own costs, but also provide the community service that is desired of the building's use itself. So we've created a very robust business model, which means that once we have constructed, we hope you won't need to have your handouts anymore. And upstairs at the back, we also have multiple classrooms and auditoriums for, I think, which is what I love the most, is the education part and the mentoring and the point of teaching as well, for different kind of topics, Islamic, secular, sciences, all that sort of thing will happen on the top floor at the back there. So what we also have is the journey. So the next slide, we see in May 2012, we had a site that was overgrown. It was a forest basically, and it was pretty empty. And through we established a charity in May, and we began to discuss, and the council guided us in how we could be successful in creating a space for the community, which will be useful for the whole community, and especially the Muslim community. And at the time, Baroness Dorothy was instrumental in that process, and now we have Peter here who's carrying on the torch, raising it quite high, so that's really good. And that collaboration is what we work through lease agreements. So we spent a whole year on the legals to make sure we have an agreed lease for the land, so that we don't waste any efforts or your money to something that's unsecured. So the council showed very pragmatic and logical steps and helped us agree a lease, and it took us a good year in the legals, a lot of toing and froing and fine-tuning and trimming, as you do with amongst lawyers and people like me who like to just talk for the sake of it. And then you have, in June, we decided to clear that land, and you can see some of the volunteers, they cleared out the land just as a symbol when the lease was agreed. So we got rid of the forest and the shrubbery. And in January 2015, we were granted the planning permission for the building itself. And thereafter, we moved on to detailed drawings for construction, which is a whole set of experts and consultant architectural team, a design team, which comes together to really thrash out what's going to be in the building, what is required for construction. That process and the process of securing a builder and beginning construction took us to April 2017. And then you can see we held a groundbreaking event in 2017. The whole community turned up, and we dug into the ground and we laid concrete into the foundations. And that was quite an exciting time. We have then moved on to continuing with construction. The steel rose from the ground, and you can see in 2018 we started putting the concrete floors in, and the steel structure was up. We also then moved on to, there's more pictures there you can see internally. The next slide. And then thereafter the brickwork rose quite quickly from the ground with our beautiful logo design there as well. And you can see the comparisons of when it looks like just a steel frame versus the brickwork. I think it's good to reminisce about the journey, more for my own sake, really. You're probably thinking, oh gosh, what? But I actually like watching this and the progress that happens. The next slide should show us a more robust picture of before and after and how the brickwork was constructed. And the next slide would show more internals. That's upstairs, but we can move on because it's actually moved on further from that. The roof was installed during the early pandemic phase, and we managed to get the roof on. And there's a few patches of roof work that's required now because there was a storm last year. I don't know if you remember. So there was some panels that have been dislodged in the corners, and some of the drainage needs to be put together. So right now, despite the pandemic, we also had, during that period of Brexit and pandemic, the builders, we had problems with start and stop, and it wasn't very viable. But now we have fantastic, shining knights in armour builders who have come on site and are on that roof now, patching it up, finishing it off. The windows are on order, so within a few weeks the whole glass should be in, and we should have a wind and watertight building. And all of that fundraising and funds exist for that process. We had secured all that funds for that time. And you can see on the slide on the screen there on the left, you see the land empty at the bottom. That's like a bird's eye view, to just give you an idea of how large the site is. And then the building constructed next to it, how big that is as well. And there's a car park at the back as well, which leads to the back. So it's a beautiful site. And then we will find, if you could play on that slide, there's a little play button. This was just 10 days ago. You can have a little walk through. Scaffolding was put back up because we needed to finish off some patching of the roof. So you would have noticed all of that work happening again. So this is the ground floor, and it's a rather large space and an exciting space. I'm hoping our next community event like this would actually be in the centre this autumn, or even earlier actually, when we've got some screening down on the floor and you can walk around. We'll do a walk around visits for you guys so you can really understand the space and understand how it's going to be used and how it's going to benefit the community. So that's that. We're devoid of a clicker today, hence my nodding to my assistant. So what we have is we have, to be honest, through the mercy of the Almighty and through good people and contributions from everyone, we have raised close to 2 million, 1.7 million pounds to date. And interestingly, during the pandemic period, we raised a lot of money despite people being at home and construction pausing, which shows the good faith and the goodwill of people and their desire to finish this building. And so we've actually, the lion's share of funds we've acquired and we've put into the building as well. But what we are short of is another £800,000, which actually is a doddle compared to what we've done before. So not to worry, it's all going to flow really easily. And I think this is what we're really here today. Today we're here to I just want to highlight that this building itself, this venue has given us an opportunity to come together for a few reasons. One, to reflect on Watford Football Club and their collaboration. Two, to think about the centre itself. Three, to raise some money for the centre. Whatever is required in your good hearts. No one's here with a gun except for the police force, who won't let you go unless you pay. And so make sure your checkbooks are out. But we're here also to just talk about this centre, this project. There's a hadith sharif when the Prophet ﷺ said, "The earth on the day of resurrection will be scorching, except for the shadow of a believer, for verily his charity will serve him as a shade." I know Muslims are very generous, especially in the month of Ramadan, and we're constantly pouring out money into different causes, and we're trying to gain as much good deeds. And I think in the whole year, the largest amount of fundraising happens in the month of Ramadan and by the Muslim community. I think close to like 20 billion is raised a year. So that shows you, and unfortunately or fortunately, I'm not sure, but a lot of it is international. Whereas I believe, charity starts at home, and the fire burning around us needs to be put out. And I think that's why it's very important for us to support the local centres and the local initiatives to bring our children, the future, up in an environment that is really suitable and conducive to progress and to goodness. And I think that's so important. So there are ways of doing this. If anyone was interested in getting a plaque, a golden plaque in the name of the centre, which will be put up, it's only a small sponsorship of £500. It's not that big. I mean, most people in this room probably have done that before. So if your name isn't on the database, please contact me. It should go on. We do have a database for plaque names to be put on. And realistically speaking, I just wanted to sort of explain to you, as almost my final points, the value of this room that you sit in and this experience for tonight, including the food, the catering, and the view, normally would cost almost £22,000 to book out this room. And Watford Football Club have kindly, in their generosity, in their sense of sponsorship, have subsidised that and allowed us to use this. and without cost to any single one of you, which works out at £174 per head. I'm. This is just a value thrown out there, just for you to make, not to make you feel guilty of sitting on your chair. It's actually to make you appreciate the goodness and collaboration from Watford Football Club, and I think they deserve a round of applause for that. And I think it's important to, if we can, match that amount tonight at the very least. It doesn't have to be tonight, it could be standing orders. Many of you do have standing orders and you spread them over a few months. That would be really, really helpful. So what would happen is that would allow us to effectively almost finish off the hard landscaping of the centre. So the car park and the whole area, that would take us to not the finished form, not the form where you put the final brick, the tarmac or the paving, but the really hard landscape where you can walk and drive on there without any problems, and effectively creates a finished look for the entire centre. Because the windows are coming in 3 weeks, the roof is finishing off in 3 weeks, the outside will be cleaned out and made good with a hard landscape, and then all that's left is the internals, and that will fly through. So what I would like to do is, before we hand over to Watford Football Club to say their reflections, there are, on your desk, there are sheets that says scan this code. If you want to donate, you can scan the QR code, it will take you to a donation page. Also, Brother Dole and the lovely volunteers who are going to stand up miraculously and pounce on you guys. If you want to donate, you can fill out your forms and you can hand in your, even if it's not today, if you register your interest, your name, your details, how much, and if you take a moment now, 1 minute now, just to, if you are going to write something, and they will collect. What we'll do is in 20 minutes, we'll make a tally. That's my brother leaving the room, he thinks he can get away. But I think we'll make a tally in about 15, 20 minutes when we come back from the reflections of what we raised for the night before we go into final